Oh, hey, YouTube. Like my Hello Kitty hat? I like it. Okay, doing a movie review. Uh, I just watched the movie in a different language. That was really weird. Okay, the movie that I'm reviewing is called Frozen, which was released in February of 2010, and a director that I don't know, uh, Adam Green, is the director of this film. I don't know who that director is. I didn't research that director. I really want to focus on this film though and say to the director if he was to actually what happened. Oh, sorry, I had computer technical problems. Anyway, props and applause to this director. I want to praise this film, and I'm inspired to do this review because Rotten Tomatoes says 63% on this film, and other reviews that I looked at were really awful. And I disagreed on all the awful reviews of this film. Totally disagreed. I think this is one of the best uh, horror films put out in the past uh, 20 years. Um, I mean, I'm a horror film buff. I mean, I like watching horror films. I did an extensive review on an old film, the 70s Amityville Horror, and I'd like to do uh, that kind of extensive review on this film also because I refuse to accept the lowball reviews that are out there on this film. I mean, I just, like I said, I don't know much about Adam Green, the director, but this film, this film is worthy of so much more than it's gotten as far as feedback. Okay, and I also want to say that it is a horror movie and it is not meant for children. Just like my videos are usually published not for children because when I'm not trying to be appropriate. I like to curse a lot. It is not the language of this horror film that is the problem. Actually, the dialogue and the script are completely irrelevant to why this film is so amazing. And that's why I watched it in a different language so that the script wouldn't get in the way of what I know and why I know that this film is so good. You have to look at this movie like it's a silent movie. Take you just if you're a deep uh, critiquer of art and a deep critiquer of film, you have to look at this movie silent. I looked at it in another language, which is to me the same thing as watching it silent because I didn't know the language that I watched it in. But if you pay attention to the dialogue of this movie, then you're going to be with those lowball reviewers because the script is a distraction from how good this movie is. Okay. And I'm not just, this is not a typical Jason Freddy slasher movie. This is not a slasher movie. This is a deep, deep horror movie. And in this script and the blah, blah, blah going on, the dialogue is the reason why the viewers who give it low reviews do not see this masterpiece for what it is. But I do because I know how to do this, and I know how to do this and look and see what a great masterpiece this is. Okay, I kind of want to pause sometimes because I say a lot and I got to catch my breath. All right, want to talk. Let's start with my notes. I made notes. Um, there were one, two, three, four or five main characters. Basically, there's three main characters and there's two other characters. So there's five characters that we can talk about. And just mention all the names so that we can refer to the names. The actress Emma Bell played Parker O'Neill. Okay. She is the blonde girl. Sean Ashmore played Joe Lynch, which is the friend of Dan Walker. Dan Walker is Parker's boyfriend, and Dan Walker is played by Kevin Zegers. And Jason, the ski lift operator, is played by Ed Ackerman. And then the little irrelevant side character, her name is Shannon, and she's played by Riley Vanderbilt. Okay, those are the only five characters in the movie, but really the whole movie is focused on Parker, Joe, and Dan, who get stuck on a ski lift and are freezing to death. Okay, and that sounds like some people say that sounds like a boring, pathetic plot. It's not the plot or the script that makes this a deep movie. It is the cinematography, the action, the direction, and the depth of the symbolic meaning behind what you're seeing. And you have to look beyond dialogue and plot if you want to understand why this movie is, how I see it, a masterpiece. There are a lot of implications in this movie, religious, philosophical, and symbolic implications that are obvious. And to someone like me who has been uh, an amateur, maybe, or maybe not an amateur, a scholar, a devotee of religious texts, philosophical information, and a poet who appreciates symbolism. This film has all of that in it, and it's not like bam, we're talking about Jesus. It's not like that. It's not a preachy thing, but it's all there. It is all there. Okay, so how do I see this? Well, you have, like I said, you've got three main characters. Now, you've got God, Jesus, and Satan as the three main characters. Which one's which? Okay. That could be obvious. Then again, it might not be obvious. It depends on how you look at it. This is a perspective thing, but I see it a certain way. Then there's also the literary and philosophical elements going on, like man versus beast, and man versus himself. And all three of the characters go through this. Okay. And the Christian existentialism. If you're into existentialism, then you know about C.S. Lewis and Kierkegaard and Sartre and Nietzsche. You know about these philosophers who have tried in words to express what couldn't be understood from what Jesus said in the Bible or from Old Testament stories, because there was too many debates, right, about interpretation. So, I mean, the four philosophers I just mentioned spent their lives trying to explain how they saw it. Okay. Well, it's all in this movie. I know these. How can that be in this silly little horror movie about three people stuck on a ski lift? It's all in this movie. It's all there. I mean, No Exit was a play written by Sartre. Okay, it had a man and two women. Okay, this movie has two men and a woman, but it doesn't matter. Take sex out of it. If you take sausage and tuna out of it, and you can see there they are. Sartre's No Exit on the ski lift. How are they going to get off the ski lift? It's a triangle. Three people. What are they going to do? They're stuck. No exit. So that's already there. Um, then you have a whole bunch of stuff like C.S. Lewis, The Problem of Pain. That's there. Then you have also Kierkegaard and Nietzsche. I don't know. I don't know enough of literary references to point out how Kierkegaard and Nietzsche are also represented, but I know enough about the way that they think to say that they are definitely also represented in different scenes of this film. All right, so let me go through the scenes so that you can see what I'm talking about. I don't have fancy technology skills, so I can't show you clips of the movie to point out different things that I see. But if you watch the movie and you remember what I'm saying, then you'll see what I see. Okay. How I see it symbolically is a good way to start. I see it symbolically as Parker, the blonde girl, is the snake. Dan, the boyfriend, is the bull, like a cow. I know this is just go with me here for a minute. It's symbolic. Joe, the friend, is the horse. So the triangle is between the snake, the bull, and the horse. And the ski lift symbolically represents trust, which is why, it's a horror story because it's a survival story. Are they going to get off the ski lift or are they going to freeze to death? Are they going to try to help each other or are they just going to surrender to death? That's a deep question because that's how life is. I mean, if you've ever been so depressed to think suicidal thoughts, then the feeling of, do I fight for my life or do I just surrender and say, you know, it's over anyway? Well, that's what that's about, and it takes trust. You see, you can have all the faith in God, but if you don't trust God and yourself, how are you going to fight for your life? How are you going to fight for your life? So anyway, all right. And then there's also the element of blame, which the other characters, the two lesser significant characters, Jason and Shannon, sort of explain what the Blue Hotel by Stephen Crane was trying to say, that blame gets shifted and and everyone's to blame or no one's to blame, and blame is a perspective thing also. Like, you know, Jason, the guy who was running the ski lift, he represents like the gatekeeper. But where are they going? Are they going to heaven or to hell? That's a question. They think they're going to heaven, right? Or they think they are in heaven. So they completely trust this stranger they trust their lives to this stranger, thinking, "Oh, we're in heaven. Nobody's going to hurt us." But the gatekeeper was just a human being who wasn't that responsible about their lives. They were already breaking the rules, begging him to break the rules. So he was just a typical human being who said, whatever, and left them dangling on the ski lift. Okay. So is it heaven or hell? Well, for them, it was sort of a hell because now they're stuck in this triangle on the ski lift and it looks like they're going to die. All right. So and the other girl, Shannon, who's only in this movie for about 5 minutes, one conversation that she has with Joe, and basically, if you like I said, if you just take all the dialogue out, Shannon represents an exit. Okay, it's like if you're stuck in no exit, if you're stuck in the triangle and you can't find your exit, see, Joe was looking for an exit. He didn't want to be in that triangle anymore. So he was talking to Shannon because he didn't want to be stuck in that no exit triangle anymore. So that's what she represents. But the same thing can be said about the ski lift. Okay. Jason, the gatekeeper, is just this typical human who isn't a lifeguard. He's not trying to protect anybody. He's just collecting tickets and doing his job. And they trust this stranger human like they're in heaven, but then they get stuck on the ski lift and thinking they're going to die. But if they die, do they go to heaven or were they already in heaven on earth and then they met the gatekeeper and they realize, oh, it all depends on your perspective again, right? Are we in heaven or are we in hell? And that's where the problem of pain, C.S. Lewis's novel, comes in. Okay, the first, Dan, the bull, is the first one to become like a Jesus character. Okay, at one point, there's a symbolic representation of God is going to save us. When the tractor pulls up, and they're freezing. She's already got frostbite on her face. They're freezing, and the tractor pulls up, and they're like, you can see it. They're excited. They think they're going to get saved, and the tractor guy doesn't even see them and just leaves them there, and they're like, what just happened? So that's kind of like you sort of have a prayer or you sort of have faith, and there's God, but maybe God doesn't see you, or is God punishing you? Are they being punished for breaking the rules? Who's punishing them? God, the gatekeeper, or themselves? Is it man versus beast, man versus God? Who is it? What is it? Who's punishing them? Are they being punished? They broke the rules. Okay, so anyway, then like I said, Dan, who I think is symbolic of the bull, he decides to make the Jesus, the hero move. He jumps off the ski lift, and I think it's because he really does love Parker, his girlfriend. He loves her, and I mean they could all just sit there and freeze to death together. But Dan decides to do the hero move. He jumps off the ski lift. He lands. It's a very far jump. His legs break instantly. He's in agony and pain and shock. And there's nothing he can do. He has no legs. He's in the snow. He made the hero call to try to save them. Well, if we're gonna die, I might as well die trying, right? He made the hero call. He jumps off, legs completely broken. He's stuck in the snow, and the wolves come and eat him like a cheeseburger. And it's horrific, and it's one of the most horrific scenes in horror to me because um I mean that can happen. This isn't just like a fantasy of horror. If you get stuck in the snow in the woods, the wolves look at you like a cheeseburger. That's true. That's not just, some let's make up a fictional slasher because he has psychological issues. No, we're talking about the wolves look at us like a cheeseburger, just like we go to McDonald's and eat a cheeseburger. Okay, so that's the man versus nature part, and I say this is not for kids because I think kids should should enjoy their childhood without having nightmares about being eaten by wolves, which is a reality. That could happen. That's real. That's real. The people who hate guns, and I'm not a big fan of guns, okay? I'm not a big fan. But the reason I always stood by the Constitution is some people get stuck living in the woods. And if they don't have the proper weapon, Fang Fang is going to chomp you like a cheeseburger. All right, let me get past that though. Okay. Um anyway, after the bull makes the Christ-like uh, decision, the hero decision, and he dies. He breaks his legs. He gets eaten like a cheeseburger. Then you have Joe and Parker stuck on the lift with that horrific image in their mind, and Parker's crying. She's just crying, and it's if you no matter what if you turn off the volume or if you listen to it, you can tell that it's torture to Joe listening to her cry because he's already mourning his best friend. That Dan, I mean, yeah, Dan, the one who jumped off, is not only her boyfriend, he's Joe's best friend. So they're both feeling the same pain, but Joe is dealing with it, without hysterical crying, and Parker is crying and crying and crying, and they're getting he and Joe's kind of in this like I just want to let the frost kill us in silence, or I just I don't want to deal with this, but Parker keeps crying. So it's kind of torturous. So there's again back to the problem of pain. It's not just the pain, you see. It's not just the pain of broken legs or being eaten by wolves. It's listening to the pain because the pain lingers. Then it's not just, oh, I had this image in my mind of somebody I loved got had a brutal death. No, now I have to listen to all the people crying about it. Oh my God. And that's extra torture, as if it wasn't bad enough that it happened. So there's more pain. Now you saw the physical pain. Now you got to listen to the emotional pain. It's like, does the pain ever end? Well, then we get to the blame. Okay. Well, how are we going to end the pain? They get through the night. The sun comes up. They're on the second day on the lift. They survive. They've got frostbite on their flesh, but they survived the first night. And now they're both like sort of internally frozen. Like they're both quiet and talking at a, you know, calm pace. And but this is where Parker sort of realizes something. She has this sort of epiphany about maybe the brotherhood of man, where she starts realizing that, yeah, Dan made the Christ like hero move, and maybe it was for her or for love or whatever, but also that Joe is an extension of Dan, that they're best friends, and that this whole ski lift idea was really their idea. And now she's starting to feel like sabotaged or set up. Like, you know, she's starting to blame Joe, you know, because she would have blamed Dan if he was alive to blame. So she blames him. I mean, she doesn't. It's not in the dialogue. You have to sense it. And why does Joe decide to climb the wire? Why does Joe decide to act heroically? He wasn't going to. He was just going to sit there and surrender. If he lives, he lives. If he dies, he dies. That's what his attitude was through the night. But because Parker blames him, that's why he decides to do the heroic action, and he climbs this cable to get to another ski lift and get down to the snow. He doesn't break his legs or anything, but he goes off. You see the wolves. He has to fight off the wolves, and he takes off. She's waiting there on the ski lift, and she doesn't know if he's going to make it or not. And as she's, you know, then it's she's only left with her thoughts by herself. Now, is Joe going to save me after I blamed him, or did he get eaten by the wolves? And then she's realizing, like, would I save me if I had blamed me? He doesn't really owe me that. I already blamed him. All he has to do is save his own hide. And then she's realizing, oh shit, I'm screwed. I'm all alone here. So now she starts fighting for herself. So she gets down and she's on her stomach, like I said, like a snake, and she's slithering down the snow and she sees the wolves. And you don't know, like, for a fact. You see, they never show the face if it's Joe or Dan. You can assume that Joe got eaten like a cheeseburger too, or that was just the remains of Dan that they dragged to another spot. We don't really know because all they show is like meat, the body. They just show a piece of like body pieces and the wolves eating. And she's like, oh shit. She looks into the wolf's eyes and she's like, oh shit. But see, this is interesting too, because when you see the wolf's eyes, it's almost like the wolf is just like, we don't need your snake meat right now. We've got a nice juicy cow here. And she just slithers down the mountain. And then she gets, you know, she saves herself. She's rescued or whatever. She gets, but we really don't know. It's very ambiguous about Joe. Does he live? Does he die? Was he a cheeseburger just like Dan, or did he make it down to the bottom of the mountain and also get rescued? It's ambiguous. And the point of it, though, I mean, is not just is a boring plot. Oh, well, they were stuck on a ski lift and some horrific things happened. It's not that. See, who who's the snake? Was the bull the snake? Was the horse the snake? Or was the snake the snake? You know, why we always say if the woman is to blame. Why? Wasn't her idea to break the rules. It wasn't her idea. You know, the bull and the horse kind of came up with that plan. But she was the one who pointed out the blame. You see? Woo! Deep. It's really deep. Anyway, if you're into looking at things symbolically or religiously or even philosophically, then I think that this horror movie is more than just a silly little movie about three people stuck on a ski lift. I mean, if I was going to give a negative critique to a film, it definitely wouldn't be on this movie Frozen. It would be on the movie Open Water, which is also stuck in a hard spot movie, abandoned and stuck in a life threatening situation. Open Water, I think I mentioned it in some other critiques I don't like it. I see the value and the greatness of the movie Frozen that came out in 2010. But as far as Open Water, basically it was just in symbolic terms, it was just two lambs fed to the sharks. And I think I didn't like it because not only was it sad to me to see two lambs just thrown in for, it's like watching, if you have a snake in an aquarium tank and you put the mouse in to feed the snake. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's sort of sad. Well, Open Water was just like that. It was like 2 hours of watching two lambs get eaten by sharks, and in the whole time, how they make reference in the other horror movie Silence of the Lambs. Well, after watching Open Water, you understand why Jodie Foster wanted Silence of the Lambs. Like, you don't want to hear two lambs crying for 2 hours. It's awful. Anyway, so thumbs down on Open Water, 10 thumbs up on Frozen. As a horror film, I think Frozen is just a masterpiece. And if you haven't seen it and you're into horror films, I do recommend it. And that's all I have to say.